obviously, the biggest news in the NBA right now, some of the biggest news in the world, honestly, is this NBA betting scandal that is taking place right now. Another one has dropped. Chauncey Billups, head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, as well as Terry Rozier, current Miami Heat player, have been arrested in a FBI investigation. FBI cracking down on this one. Convenient timing to me, happening right as the season is starting, and what's supposed to be like a really big week for the NBA, really important week for the NBA, has turned into a bit of a mess and has turned into a complete PR disaster. Within the indictments, the Toronto Raptors were named, but as the user in chat says there, the Toronto Rangers. Yes, in the indictment, the Raptors are named, but in the press conference, they did call them the Toronto Rangers. So that shows you the extent of respect we get here with our sporting organizations in Toronto. Hey, we can make them respect us in baseball if we can win this World Series and all. But yes, the Toronto Raptors were named, but primarily it is involving the Charlotte Hornets in a game involving Terry Rozier, where he exited a game early due to a foot injury. We've seen something similar, obviously, with the Raptors. Jonte Porter had 2 games where he exited early with an eye injury, and people are able to parlay all the unders on his player props and come out with some very big possible payouts. Now, granted, that money never saw the light of day, but maybe it could have, and maybe in some other situations it has. We don't know, but they've cracked down here on Terry Rozier. This has been kind of an ongoing thing. I even spilled into last season a little bit, but the Chauncey Billups one really came out of nowhere. And the Chauncey Billups one, apparently, there are mafia ties to both of these. For the most part, these are individual things. These are independent events between Billups and Rozier. Chauncey Billups was involved primarily in, I think it was mafia-led poker games, where they had certain ways that their players could cheat in the poker games. Apparently, there was this sounds like a movie. They had X-rays in the table so they could see what cards other people had, and they had contact lenses and glasses that could see specific marks on cards. I don't know. That sounds pretty crazy to me that even exists in real life. But anyways, there was cheating going on in these poker games, and Chauncey Billups was used as a front-facing celebrity to add a little bit of validity to the games, if you will. Having Chauncey Billups, an NBA Hall of Famer's presence at these events, made more people comfortable, I would suppose, to actually play in these poker games, and Chauncey Billups was involved there. But as much as I say those two were independent events, it did seem that way. Chauncey Billups' name was in the Terry Rozier indictment papers, so maybe there is a link somewhere. But yeah, this is pretty crazy. I work in sports betting media. That is my day job, my full-time job. That's not amateur sports, unfortunately. So this is obviously a big story for us at work as well, who do sports betting media. Regulation has come into place over the last few years, and there's 2 ends to kind of the story when it comes to regulation. Because first of all, when it comes to regulation, it provides a lot more clarity into these markets. Therefore, it is a lot easier to find these irregularities on somebody jamming the unders on prop bets for Jonte Porter or jamming the unders on prop bets for Terry Rozier. It's a lot easier to catch these people. It's a lot easier to find out when these things are going on as it was previously. Now, I mean, we've only seen a couple of examples here with Rozier, with Jonte Porter. Who knows in the past how many of these we haven't caught, how many of these we haven't seen. So regulation has helped in sports betting to find some of these, but also regulation has breeded a lot more markets, a lot more of these smaller markets, more markets on players on 2-way contracts like Jonte Porter, or just a wider variety of player props available on individuals. Maybe in the past you would have only had a couple of markets, just a points market on Jonte Porter, or maybe you're only allowed to bet the over on Jonte Porter. So as much as regulation is able to help find these things, it's also providing the opportunity for people to exploit these players when we don't have as much money. Now for the Jontay Porter situation, it's a little bit more believable because I believe he was on a $400,000 contract at the time with the Raptors. At the end of the season, I think he was playing enough to earn himself a guaranteed deal somewhere and get himself like a $1 million paycheck that I don't think the sports betting was ever going to help him get. And, that could have turned into a long career in basketball, be it in the NBA or elsewhere. You can make a lot of money playing basketball overseas. I think he currently does. Like, Jontay Porter probably does play overseas right now. Jontay Porter, current team. Let's just see, because he's probably playing overseas right now. He was trying to play in Greece, I think, but he didn't have permission from the courts because he had to keep going back and forth to deal with his court case, and and I don't think he was allowed to leave the country to play. Anyways, I think he was playing in Greece. I don't even know. He's banned from the NBA for life, but anyways. The whole point is he had the ability to make money overseas and continue playing basketball. I don't think he had to resort to that. But, it's more believable with the amount of money he was making. Now, as for Terry Rozier, this is a player who has made tens of millions of dollars in the NBA. In fact, we may have even crossed the $100,000 mark for Terry Rozier. Let me see. Terry Rozier career earnings. Terry Rozier... his most recent contract was a 4-year, $96 million contract, so we've absolutely crossed the threshold of $100 million in career earnings, haven't we? Yeah, absolutely, we've gone past. So this guy's made over $100 million in the NBA. Chauncey Billups made tens of millions of dollars playing in the NBA as a player. He was a Finals MVP. He is in the Hall of Fame. He's maybe an even better coach than he was a player. Had opportunities to make even more money coaching than he did playing. And I just don't understand how Terry Rozier is throwing that away or putting that career in jeopardy for these small scale wagers. And Chauncey Billups throwing this away for some fucking poker games and apparently providing information elsewhere. All of this is alleged. There's nothing that's factual about this. So I should say that before we go any further. But at least for Jontay Porter, I saw screenshots where we're touching over $1 million if it had gotten through on DraftKings and they were able to take the money out. Now, again, I don't imagine that money was ever able to see the light of day. But for Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups, the amount of money these guys have made and can continue to make, it is just absurd. And it is so confusing how they even came to the conclusion this was a good idea to even chance throwing this away. So I think to end off this conversation, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the chat and in the comments, but I think to end off this conversation here, it is important to note that these events occurred before the Jontay Porter situation. So as much as sports betting is very in your face right now, and like I said, my day job is in sports betting, so I am a supporter of where the industry is in regulation. I can't agree they can get in your face a little bit, but it's a competitive market. People are competing for people to sign up to their sports book. It is important to note that we haven't had a situation since Jontay Porter. This was before the Jontay Porter situation. So it's not like we're at a point where wow, this is yet another thing happening. Clearly sports betting has gone too far. This is a big problem. I don't think we're quite there yet because, again, we haven't had another example of this since the Jontay Porter situation. The NBA really made an example of him by banning him from the NBA for life. So I still think that there is good to regulation for this because it is easier to catch, but also regulation existing, the additional markets that exist on lesser players like Jontay Porter and, maybe future players who would be on 10-day contracts. It does provide a further risk for this happening because of all those markets existing because of regulation. So there's two kind of stories to it. There's two kind of parts to it, two sides to it. But I think the NBA needs to continue to make examples of this. We're finding all this stuff from a while ago. I think that is good. And I think we need to just continue to kind of see where everything goes. Again, this was before Jontay Porter. We didn't have any incidents last year that we are aware of yet. I imagine this will scare off anybody, even with it in the back of their mind, the tiniest of thoughts in doing this. So hopefully the integrity of the game is no longer called into question. But it's easier to catch now, but it's also easier to do and easier to get people involved in. So we will see where things go with the NBA. But from an NBA perspective. I mean, I saw reports as well that, like, this was known by the NBA for a while. They tried to sweep this situation under the rug. So, very ugly for the NBA. Very, very ugly timing. I think Chauncey Billups is probably, I mean, just my guess, I think Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier are finished in the NBA. And honestly, like, Adam Silver, it's not a great look for him. If it's deemed that they tried to sweep this under the rug, this is another issue for the NBA. This could be a problem for Adam Silver's employment as well.